Off the bench, Saints, T-Bob, Jacob Hester. Why Taysom Hill is the most important player on the Saints offense right now, he certainly is. This season, he certainly is. With Derek Carr kind of playing sporadically and still learning things, the wide receivers not being the superstars that we were hoping they would be, and Alvin Kamara in the running game not being able to get going, Taysom is hard carrying this offense. And it's kind of wild because, I believe that Taysom is best used sparingly. I believe that he's best used in very specific moments to kind of catch the defense off guard, and when he's used, to get a lot of value out of it. But right now, he's basically saying, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to run the ball, or I'm getting the rock. Good luck stopping me. I was having a conversation last week. Taysom is basically he is basically what the Wildcat wanted to be. Taysom is a very unique player in a position that can utilize multiple skill sets, whether it's throwing, catching, or rushing. And he's lining up and telling defenses, I am going to get this ball. What are you going to do about it? And so far this season, no one really has. We made a video on this channel before Kamara came back, and we were talking about how should Taysom be the starting running back? This is when Tony Jones Jr. was getting carries and whatever was going on. And, Taysom's sitting there, and he has like a 7 yards per rush. I mean, he really is kind of unstoppable. So at the time, I was thinking maybe he should be the start running back. Just put him back there, give him 25 touches and see what happens. What's interesting now is that he kind of should be the starting everything. Like Taysom should be, until someone proves me wrong, the entire offense should kind of funnel into Taysom. He should be the first look right now of what we're doing offensively.
I think we are, after this conversation, we're all in agreement yet again that the Saints need Taysom Hill.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's forget all the jokes and how many games it was. That man was 7-2. He was 7-2 as a starting quarterback, and that ain't his role. We know that, but I'll be damned if he doesn't have maybe the most important role on that offense. Does that mean he's the best player? No, it does not.
It kind of does. Right now, Taysom is the best player. Right now, it's him and Kamara. And that's really it. The benefit that Taysom has over Kamara right now is that Taysom is not tied to Carr. Like Kamara's success is in a way going to be reflective of Derek Carr because Carr has to throw him the ball and he has to get the passing game going, to get the running going, whatever. Taysom isn't like that because Taysom's running game gets going no matter what. He cannot be stopped. It's crazy. When you're watching the games and you're watching Kendra Miller and Jamal Williams and Alvin Kamara run for 2.5 yards a carry, and then Taysom lines back in an empty set and does some kind of weird delayed quarterback power, and he gets 6 yards a carry, it's wild because it shouldn't be any different than the running backs. I don't know if he's getting a head of steam because he's starting further back. I don't know. But it really is crazy to watch. Even his end arounds. And last game, he had a couple cuts and he had a couple jump cuts and moves to the outside where it was like, man, I'm watching Boobie Miles from Friday Night Lights. Like I'm watching the best running back in the NFL.
Does it mean he's the most important? I kind of think it is right now.
That is actually a fascinating Saints question. Is Taysom Hill the most important player on the New Orleans Saints right now?
Right now, yeah.
Where do you struggle?
Or let's say, okay, this is what I'm saying.
But where do you struggle?
You struggle in the red zone, and he basically is a solution for all your struggles. Now, that would be my one caveat with Taysom, is he really just the perfect Band-Aid for our biggest struggles so he looks better? The struggles being short yardage, the important downs, third down, red zone, stuff like that. He's just give it to him and let him do. It like alleviates word of the day. It alleviates Pete Carmichael from having to design anything because he's just giving Taysom the ball. Taysom isn't being used creatively. It's the opposite. He's being used the same way like a junior high school running back is used. Just line up in the backfield. We're going to give you the ball. Make something happen. Half the time, he doesn't even have a lead blocker. Like I said, it's an empty set. So maybe that's why right now Taysom seems so dominant is because he's taking what we're so bad at and he's kind of masking it. And that's kind of unfair to Taysom. It takes away a little bit from him. But I've been so impressed with Taysom this season. I mean, how could you not? Before with Peyton, he was used he was kind of Peyton's like pet thing. Like he was used really creatively, but he was kind of a gadget thing. Then after Sean, Taysom kind of fell off. He kind of went away, and we started going more towards a traditional offense. Now Taysom is kind of merged into the two. He's certainly not a gadget player. He's not like that. He's not being used creatively, but he is the pivotal player in the offense.
Struggle when Derek Carr struggles. Where does he struggle?
Yeah, in the red zone.
Where's Taysom the best?
In the red zone. So I would say he's the most important player to the offense. I still got to give DeMario Davis. I would still give DeMario Davis, to me, the most important player on the team.
That's just such a. I've talked about this a million times. It's such an old school way of thinking of like that, right? Here's what's important, and this is going to ruffle some feathers: scoring, offense. That's it. That's the name of the game. If Ray Lewis and Patrick Mahomes played on the same team, and Ray Lewis was hurt, it wouldn't matter. But it wouldn't matter as much if Patrick Mahomes was hurt. I'll tell you that. If Ray Lewis and Barry Sanders were on the same team, it wouldn't matter if Ray Lewis missed a game. But it wouldn't matter as much as Barry Sanders. Bottom line. If DeMario Davis is an A-plus player, which he is, and Taysom Hill right now is an A-plus player, the Saints offense, it matters way more that Taysom is there and Taysom is clicking than DeMario Davis. No hate to DeMario. I love DeMario Davis. But ask the second half in Green Bay how much it mattered if the offense could get going. I'm not trying to say that defense doesn't matter. But I'm saying when you compare someone who makes the defense go and someone who makes the offense go, in today's NFL, the offensive player is worth way more.
I don't know, man.
I
Carl
may put
Granderson
Taysom
is
over
up there as well.
The what?
Carl Granderson's up there as well. With Cam, look, Cam Jordan's he's a Hall of Famer, but
Yeah.
Carl Granderson's giving you what you need off the edge right now when so many others that you drafted to do so have not. He's right there as well.
To me,
I know where
with
DeMario Davis lines
DeMario
up.
Davis,
I know that. But
and then look at the play he made in the game last week. The answers he gives.
DeMario's the man. Make no mistake. DeMario and Carl Granderson are incredible right now. Carl Granderson, what a joy to watch.
Leadership, and that's why I'm saying he's the most important player is honestly the leadership.
I think
it's not just the play on the field.
I think defense is like a real question between Lattimore, Granderson, DeMario Davis, and maybe soon Paulson Adebo.
Yeah. You could argue that maybe from a pure playing perspective, I would have that conversation between Granderson and Lattimore this year. But if we're taking in everything, I'll still go to the lead. I'll still go to DeMario Davis. Like Cam Jordan would score very high in the leadership, and his play's still good, but it would be a little less than. Whereas DeMario Davis,
it's not as good as DeMario
leadership
and Carl Granderson right now.
The dude's just such a
I
godsend.
agree with you. Yeah.
How you got a second
He is.
Jets linebacker that has gone on to be generational is kind of insane to me.
But like right
True.
now, like the defense in its totality, I think is playing better. Like as far as we can have the conversation on the defensive side of the football, maybe like who the most important player is. Like I probably agree with you at the end of the day that it's DeMario Davis, but we can throw other names that are intriguing. Offensively right now,
It's got to be Taysom.
it's got to be Taysom.
Yeah, I mean, it's either him or Kamara. Like, and Kamara, even Kamara, it's in like bulk. It's in like, oh, he had 15 catches. Oh, he had 17 catches. Oh, he's on pace to break the reception record while having 700 yards. Like, it's a very different conversation. As far as per play success rate, I think Taysom's far and ahead of everyone else on the offense. Kamara's being asked to do a lot, but like I said, his success rate isn't at where Taysom's is.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like I don't think it's much of a question actually. Every good offensive game you've had, Taysom's been featured heavily and has made plays, and the ones you haven't, he has not. So there is no.
Here's homework. Here's homework for you. Somebody in the comments below, go down there and tell me. I already know the answer. So homework. Everyone passes. We're grading on a curve today. In the games we've lost, Taysom does not have more than 20 yards rushing. In any of the games we've lost. I'm pretty sure in the games we've lost, he doesn't have more than 5 carries. Remember when I told y'all his algorithm for success is easy? It is. Taysom just needs to have 40 to 50 yards rushing, and the Saints are successful. It's crazy how correlated the success of Taysom is to the success of the Saints. If Derek Carr has 300 yards passing, we don't always win. If Kamara has 15 catches, we don't always win. If Taysom has 40, 50 yards, we're winning. Why? I don't know. He's that valuable. He's that valuable right now to this offense. I think it's because it means we're doing stuff offensively. I think if he's involved and he's successful, I think that means that the rest of the offense is successful as well. Like the rest of the offense is rolling. You know, we're moving the chains because of Taysom. He's so good. And kind of what I just had an epiphany. Second word of the day. I just had an epiphany. I think it's because if Taysom is successful and he's in the game plan, that means we're probably successful in the red zone and on third downs. And if you're successful for the Saints in the red zone and on third downs, we've proven as long as we do those two things, we usually win the game.
Such thing anymore as a Taysom Hill game. Every game is a Taysom Hill game, including this Sunday in Minnesota.
If you're trying to say something nice about Dennis Allen, he's really good at developing defensive backs. Like, think of the really good players the Saints have lost the last few years. Marcus Williams, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, haven't really missed a beat there. Marcus May is maybe
Von
the only
Bell
guy.
Even goes back,
Marcus
right?
May, for as much hate as I've given him, I have to also say he's played better over the last.
There is no denying Dennis Allen is one hell of a defensive coordinator. No doubt. When you think about the players that the Saints have had defensively, that you could kind of give credit to Allen or that coaching, the brain trust, it's really wild. In the last 4 or 5 years, if you take just Saints players, Saints players that are on the roster now and players that have moved on somewhere else, like Gardner Johnson and Hendrickson and players like that, if you combine them all, that is an unbelievable defense. The people that have come through New Orleans and been successful defensively, it's a long list.
Couple of weeks since he's come back.
A little
played
bit
better.
Bajan got him on the pump fake the last game. That was kind of funny. But
He ain't going to be perfect.
For sure.
But you paid him a lot of money, and he was not good.
Yeah.
But he has been better since he's come back.
Nothing can hurt me after the Jarris Bird signing. Like Marcus May's whatever. Nothing can hurt me after the Jarris Bird experience.
When y'all signed him,
he had such good numbers.
Y'all, I was still playing, and I was shocked and almost mad.
He had such incredible
I
numbers.
was almost mad because I'm like, wait a minute. That guy is getting that much money. I played against him when he was in Buffalo. I was shocked.
And it was a fascinating confluence of events where the Saints suffered at the hand of the Seahawks. Sean Payton had a top 5 defense, but then got enamored with Earl the Pearl and was like, we want to recreate that. Shuttled Darren Sproles and others out of town. Signed Jarris Bird for $100 million. Trying to.
The Saints have been a franchise. He just said Darren Sproles, which made me go on this rant here. The Saints have been a franchise where when they touch a player, whether it's Peyton and his offensive genius or Allen and his defensive genius, whenever a player has come through, the Saints have been good about getting the most out of that player. That's something that I'll give the Saints, and that's been for a long time now. I mean, Sean's tenure was almost 20 years ago, when it started. So it's a long list of players now. But I mean, you even think about the Marcus Colstons, the Darren Sproles, the Pierre Thomases, the Lance Moores, all of the defensive players we talked about. There were so many people that just came, Jimmy Graham, people that just kind of came out of nowhere, were plugged into the system, and then became superstars. Became the best in their position or one of the best in their position. And sometimes they would go like Darren Sproles. It's just, see you later. Boom. See you. Good luck. And then whatever, then they would have their career or whatever. But the Brandon Cooks and just all these people, the Saints have the list of players that they've brought in, developed, and made successful, very, very long.
Make him Earl Thomas.
There was one Earl Thomas.
Couldn't even hold his jock. And then even Rob Ryan at that point, his defense just gets shattered because they're chasing this ghost that they didn't need to chase. Nothing. Marcus May is whatever. No sweat off my back after living through the Jarris Bird experience.
We were playing them in San Diego, and Bird came on a blitz, and I picked him up, and I just remember him making a lot of noises, but not going anywhere. That's exactly. I was just blocking him. Why are you doing that right now? You're not going. You're literally in the same spot, but you're just going.
Always a flex, to drop that you casually play in the NFL.
You're right. Dennis Allen.
That's the ultimate flex.
Out of those dark Jarris Bird times and into really good defensive times, which you're going to be relied upon because, again, this Vikings defense is also probably looking at the Saints offense and licking their chops a bit, which they should not be because you feel like you should be much better, but the path to being better probably lies with Taysom Hill playing a big role.
Before we move on, Paulson Adebo named NFC Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah,
I saw this morning.
Yeah, I mean, he had what, two interceptions and a fumble. Like, yeah, he's gonna that's gonna win the award every week. You have 3 turnovers credited to you. You got that one
yesterday, and he had penalty problems early on. Had way too many penalties to start the season, but he's bounced back and he's having a great year.
Well, let's also be clear though that is something that obviously Dennis Allen does allow for, right? Like the same way that the Seahawks used to operate under the old, they're not going to flag you every time.
Yeah.
The Saints are very aggressive. The Saints defense has always been where it can be exploited. It can give up big plays. It can get penalties, but they play very aggressively. And when things are firing off, when the Saints are at their best, people are flying all over the place. They're, forcing turnovers. They're hitting the quarterback. They're just everywhere. But when you play like that, it does allow for penalties and big plays. Whatever. But I like the way the Saints play defense. I like that style. I like the aggressive style. I like the in-your-face style, like flying all over the place. Spoiler, Minnesota's going to do that. Minnesota is going to blitz. They blitz very I think they might be the most blitz-heavy defense in the NFL.
Right? It's like what Ty Law used to do way back in the day when they really wouldn't flag you that much. But even in today's, it's what the Legion of Boom did. And so the Saints are... They have an element of that, and it hurts sometimes, but it does lead to a lot of great plays as well.
I like my corners to have that aggressive nature.
Yeah,
There's a fine line for sure, Mario. I agree with what you're saying there as well, but I'd rather them be aggressive than be on their heels and wait for the play to be made.
Yeah, just watch Saturday.
And then
that. If you like guys playing 15 yards off the ball on 3rd and 5 and being absolutely terrified of getting beat deep, well, I've got a defense for you.
Yeah. Let's talk about that later. We're in a good mood right now. I will say, going with all these Taysom things that we're talking about, the numbers also tell that story as well. It's not just us seeing him go out there and be successful and just giving yourself over to it. When you do a deep dive into what he's been, even receiving the football, I mean, he's averaging 7 yards a catch.
Yeah, Taysom, he was kind of a cult hero where people just said, oh, Taysom's good because he's unique, because he's fun to watch, whatever. But now, like Jacob said, if you dive into the numbers, you can't discredit him. He obviously is the most successful per play player that we have on the team.
At the tight end position, right? So, that's added value. Anything I think he does in the receiving game, that's added value. We know he's going to have some throws here and there. He's 5 of 6 this year, completing 83% of his passes. That's not going to be what he leads in either, but it's also a portion of what he does. I think the most important thing, though, the most important stat to point out, he's got the longest run on the Saints team this year.
He's been far and away the most successful running back we have. And it is kind of a paradox because even when we cannot run the football, even when our tried and true running backs cannot get going, Taysom somehow can get going. And he's just running straight at the defense. His plays are not disguised, yet he's the most successful. Throwing-wise, I think we should use Taysom a little more throwing-wise because he's so good running. I think now is the time to sprinkle in more of those throws. Previously, I was hesitant about that because he was throwing to Marquez Callaway and Keith Kirkwood. But there's playmakers everywhere. So if he's throwing to Kamara or Michael Thomas or Chris Olave or one of our 40 tight ends, I'm totally okay with that.
20 yards. Now, that's not great.
20 yards.
Taysom Hill, though, has the longest run on the Saints this year. Alvin Kamara, 17. Jamal Williams, 11.
Bruh.
Kendra Miller, 10.
Can we catch a 30-yarder?
Right?
Can we catch a 30-yarder somewhere, boys?
I mean, I had longer than 20.
What's your longest of your career in the NFL? Do you know?
No.
Flex number 2.
Hell yeah.
Taysom Hill, 49 for 255. But listen to this. Alvin Kamara, 3.6 yards per carry. Yeah. Jamal Williams, 3 yards a carry. Kendra Miller, 3 yards a carry. When Tony Jones was in there, 3.3 yards per carry. This is bad offensive line. That's too many good running backs to say, oh, man, no, that's not them. Some of it maybe, but that's an offensive line. Taysom, 5.2.
Yeah, Taysom almost doubles it. That's what I'm saying. That it is a bad offensive line. It is a bad run game. Taysom doesn't care. Despite all of that, whatever. over 5 yards a carry. Get some.
Taysom is the only thing where you can have success in the run game. A lot of times, again, we talked about it yesterday, because you add an extra blocker. And all jokes aside, not trying to pop off here, you need all the help you can get.
Yeah,
when your
for
offensive
sure.
line is struggling as bad as it is, what can I do to be better? I can add an extra blocker with a very unique weapon that can run behind his pads like a 220-pound running back.
And, with how, and this is really, this would be a real stretch, but maybe until we figure out the run game, maybe that is our run game. Like, that's what I'm saying. Instead of doing that 6 times a game, what if we do it 20 times a game? What if we replace the normal running game with that? I'm willing to try. I think right now, you hate to do something so drastic, so different, but if they basically say, like, this is our version of the Wildcat, we're going to run it, try and stop it, like, that may unlock something even more with the Saints offense, where it's almost like the tush push with Philadelphia, where it is drastic to always run that play on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. You are going all in on that philosophy, but until it's proven to not work, do it. So I would, I hate to say, hey, quit running Kendre Miller up the middle. Hey, quit running Jamal Williams up the middle. You don't want to say that, but on the same token, it's like, hey, let's give those carries to Taysom with Kalen Saunders as the fullback. I mean, we like Dennis Allen said, we're not going to apologize for winning. I'm not going to apologize for averaging 5 yards a carry if we have to tweak some things and do things a little different. I like the idea of taking a chance, evolving a little bit, being innovative at a spot that we're terrible at right now. We're terrible at running the football right now. So we can either bang our head against the wall and keep doing the old school stuff and run for 3 yards a carry, or we can get creative and we can lean into this thing we have at Taysom right now. We can lean into making him kind of a featured back, or making that package at least like the featured go-to running package. It's the same thing I mentioned earlier of the Wildcat. Teams went all in on the Wildcat philosophy. I say we go all in as far as our running game based around Taysom.
You mentioned it, and not only, 220-pound running back, he's physical, but you just mentioned it, he's 5 of 6 passing. He's not a great passer, but when you have a bad offensive line, that makes the linebacker, the nickel, whoever, hesitate just half a second because there is a chance Taysom can throw the ball, and that's why he's having extra success.
But let's also recontextualize how we talk about Taysom Hill passing, because he's not a great passer if he's your starting quarterback compared to other starting quarterbacks. He is an elite, otherworldly thrower
100%.
when it comes to being a Wildcat quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, boom, there you go. We're on the same wavelength. Like, Taysom is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. But if we're talking about running backs who are asked to throw, Taysom all of a sudden is Joe Montana. So would I say Taysom's a great passer? Probably not. Would I say that he's elite at just completing a pass, like just doing the bare minimum compared to whatever running back? Yes. So you got to kind of, like, we're talking about really leaning into Taysom as a running back. You kind of move aside the idea of him just as a regular starting quarterback and bring over the idea of him as more of a Wildcat passer. More of a, he's exclusively throwing from that Wildcat formation. He's exclusively throwing from his kind of running packages. There's no more of him like, being a regular drop back passer. So I don't know if the brain trust of Pete Carmichael and Dennis Allen can do this, but shifting more towards the Taysom idea, like the Taysom package, the Taysom project or whatever, let him be a 12 to 15 carry guy. Let him be the two-headed monster with Kamara. And then let him throw out of that package too. Alleviate some pressure off Carr.
That's my point. Like, you have to respect his ability to throw the football.
I mean, again, he's 7-2 as a starting quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think there's 31 quarterbacks that are better than Taysom Hill. Like, I truly don't. Like, are you
right now? That's probably
the
not.
guy that the Giants are rolling out there, DeVito. Like, no disrespect to that guy. He's in the NFL. Taysom Hill's a better quarterback.
Yes.
Is Taysom is he going to be the most successful starting quarterback? No.
Taysom is a better starting quarterback than Clayton Tune or whoever the Cardinals were going to roll out, or even he's probably right up there with Badgett with Chicago. Like he's not that far off from those guys. Not saying those guys are good, but as a passer, you could certainly do worse.
You had to move on from it. I don't think that's something that you could sustain success with that down the road. But to T-Bob's point, and we talked about it yesterday, there ain't nobody else in the NFL that can do what he does, running, catching, blocking, that can literally throw every single route that you have in your route tree.
Yeah.
He's the only one.
Yeah.
The only one that has
He is the only player that can do what he can
Deep
do.
balls are sketchy, but again, what? Come on,
But
everybody
still.
can't be perfect at everything.
Yes.
And you still threw it, right? You threw the one to Rashid Shaheed, and he made you right.
28 yards long in the career.
28 yards.
28 yards.
28 yards. There you go. GG's. Mine is 0. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below what you think about the Taysom idea, this kind of philosophical shift in the running game. Would you like to see that? Would you like to see more Taysom Hill as a featured back, or more of that wildcat kind of idea? Like, do you think we need to move towards using much more of that in the offense, or do you say, whoa, that's too crazy, let's not do anything drastic, let's just give everyone else time, let's keep using Taysom how we're using him? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.